Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Wayward, and this is Grey Goo. We have here today a match between Raiden502 and Suds1979. In the top right corner, we have Raiden as our reddish-orange human player, and in the bottom left, we have Suds as our blue goo. Let's unpause and get going. Okay, let's turn the sound up a little. I think we're good. Okay, so let's start off with Raiden, as humans tend to be more interesting in the early game. So Raiden's being very defensive here. He's got his initial trident. Instead of scouting, because he knows where his opponent is. His opponent's in the opposite corner. Instead of scouting, he is starting out by defending his base from his opponent's scouting and setting up his initial refinery and factory. Suds, on the other hand, is coming out to see what his opponent's up to. In the early game, humans can do a couple of things. They can go really high economy, which is very risky against the goo. They can do a split, so one refinery, one factory, or they can do one refinery, two factories. Okay, so we have a little engagement there. Raiden seems to have missed that reaction a little bit, and is not going to chase off that drover before it scouts everything that's going on, including Raiden's initial anti-heavy sentinel, which I see human players go a lot when they're being defensive. Now we've got our second refinery, and it looks like Raiden is going to put it in the top left corner of the base. I think this is a very risky move, to be honest. When I'm playing Goo, I like to put scouts here and here. Also, there's this high terrain, which you can't see up without air. And there's this high terrain, which is the same way. Also, there's some brush down here to make for some hasty retreats. So it's I think it's kind of risky. Also, kind of poor move by Raiden. Oh no, I'm sorry, he's moving it. I thought he was building a second one. So he's shuffling his anti-heavy sentinel to be a little closer to the front to get better coverage. And this refinery is going to take a while, unfortunately. Early eco always stalls out your economy. Okay, so down here, Suds has his second mother goo, and his first mother has quite a big stock of hit points there, so she can move wherever she wants and not have to worry about stopping her rate of health regeneration. Those orange bars, for anyone who's not familiar, are potential HP. Mother goos can absorb potential HP from these catalyst vents, and then they kind of convert them into hit points at a steady rate, or digest them, people like to say. Okay, so got that refinery up, and we're getting a second factory. Not a whole lot going on right now, so while Suds moves his mother goo up here somewhere to hide, let's talk a little bit about the map. This is pretty much the standard Grey Goo map. You've got the very catalyst-rich, but dangerous to hold center. A lot of maps have this kind of focus on the center. We've got some nice little cliffs here, and here as well. There's cliffs on all sides of this, so really vulnerable to artillery in the middle. But great if you're Goo. You know, you can patrol your mothers along these vents here and just eat up catalyst non-stop. So there's a lot of paths into the base plateaus, which are fairly generous for human players, not super big. Okay, so we have Raiden doing some really extensive expansion. You normally don't see a human player do this, but I think he knows this is vulnerable. He can sense it, if you will, and he wants to protect himself. He wants to get his sentinels as far out here as he can. So we can expect to see more. In fact, he's got another anti-heavy sentinel, which I imagine will be moved out here shortly. Some production coming out. Got a slow trickle of revolvers. Revolvers are an anti-armor unit, and they're also very good in small packs at hunting down mothers. Okay, Raiden is doing some scouting and accidentally walks right into that. No! Oh, mama. She. Well, I mean, this poor Trident's still going to get eaten by the Protean, but that could have been a lot worse for that little trident. And actually a lot better for Suds. You know, eating that protein would have been more hit points for this Mother Goo. Interesting to note, in 2v2s, Mother Goos can sit on extractors, not damage them, and still gain access to those catalyst vents. You know, the humans don't care. Humans and Beta don't care about those vents at all, and they're all the Goo care about. So, right now we are at a total of 6 mothers for Suds. He's got some good economy going. This is when he's going to start producing units in earnest. You know, he's got these 2 anti-air out here for the inevitable air scout that's going to come stop this mother's harassment. It's a very interesting use of the mother, by the way. Mother Goos are a precious unit, and the ability to actually get it across the map into your enemy's base to harass their economy is not something you see particularly often, and I think has a lot to do with Raiden's incredible defensiveness. In fact, just from looking, let's see. I mean, we've got, without even bringing up the resources tab, it's evident, you know, it looks like Suds has almost twice the economy of Raiden at this point. So Raiden knows that Mama's up there. He's going to be moving these Sentinels up to stop this harassment. He's definitely got a big old army of revolvers down here, and as soon as she makes a considerable misstep, she's going to be SOL. But Suds knows what he's doing. He's got a lot of mothers on the back end of this. He's keeping his opponent focused in his base. So this is some smart play. It's risky. I would have probably chosen a small army to do this instead of the mother, which can continue to pay for itself throughout the game. But it's working, so why complain? Okay, it looks like Raiden has another extractor up, and he's moving this revolver down here, I'd imagine, to take advantage of this plateau with its rich catalyst river. Okay, looks like that mother is starting to go down. Let's see what Raiden can see, and she's gone. But she, I think, more than paid for herself. And if we look at the tab that shows all of our mothers and their potential hit points, we've got a lot of potential units and more mothers coming out. And it looks like we have a large Protean. This is actually kind of early in the way I play to see a large Protean. Oh, we lost our scouts there. There's Tempests. Raiden's got an air scout, and monitors have a huge sight range. Drover's not going to stand a chance, but it's just a Drover, so. Okay, got a couple units yet. Tempests coming out. Humans love to go air, so it's always safe to get a couple of Tempests. Plus, they can stand on cliffs, so that in some cases they're more useful scouts than the actual scout. You got a couple large Proteans coming out. Actually, quite a lot of them. There's 4 large Proteans right now. Let's look at the Army tab, Structures tab. 4 large Proteans and 5 small Proteans. And Raiden is out hunting. He's ready. He probably should have done this a little earlier, but he's got his little revolver force, and he wants to find himself some mothers to kill. And Suds is having none of that. He's running those mothers away. Not gonna let those mamas be eaten by those nasty, nasty revolvers. Okay, back in Raiden's base, we have Gladius coming out. He's on 4 refineries, which is not awful for this point. Probably could be doing a little better. He's got he's got a large factory coming out. So typically humans would want more production than this. You can see by the units tab, the human has more units than the Goo, but he's been producing units from the get-go, and unfortunately not harassing his opponent. He's delayed a little bit of mining time. Might kill this mother. We'll see. Being aggressive. Yeah, she's probably going to go down, yeah. But he's still got plenty left, and quite a large force now. In fact, Suds now has the bigger army of the two. So Raiden really needs to pick up his production pace if he's going to bring this to a successful win. Although Suds also, if you compare the number of mothers to the number of refineries, you get a rough analog for how the players are doing economically. Right now, beyond this, without counting this mother that just came out, Raiden had done a decent job of kind of bringing parity back to the picture. Okay, so we've got a pretty nasty Goo force coming out. We've got some Stalkers. We've got 12, in fact. A bunch of Destructors and some Goos in there for the area damage. Oh, nope. He's changed those Proteans into Radiance and Tempest. So, I mean, Radiants are good. They can see up hills and into brush. A very important scout unit for the Goo. And Raiden knows something's coming. He's not... There we go. Starting to react. Splitting his force up a little bit. No? I thought he would have sent those revolvers here. Tried to do a pincher maneuver. But here we've got a pretty decent-sized force of Gladius, and let's see what happens. Suds is being a little non-committal with this force. Wants to either get a good position or pick off some units, and is pulling back. I think he doesn't really know the full extent of his opponent's strength and is being cautious. It's not a bad idea. Okay, so right now, just by map vision, I want to show you something. So, Suds has an army on his player's front door. He's got units up in this corner of the map, in this expansion plateau. He's got a ton of mothers coming out right now. In fact, he's one shy, and he's saving up for a Purger over here at that full health bar. It's going to start producing that Purger any minute now. But he's got... This is the position you don't want to be in as a human player. You know, Raiden's over here. He's holed up in his base. He's producing a lot of turrets, but not a lot of units. You know, he's getting out and harassing, which is great, but look at his map vision. He barely has access to a third of the map right now. And his opponent has 3/4 of the map with mothers, with army. This is the position you want to be in. Now, the Goo do this by their nature. It's in the Goo's nature to expand and to spread. You know, mothers aren't doing any good if they're not an event. But holding up in your base as a human player with this fairly small economy and this very small number of factories is not the position you want to be in. We do have some howitzers coming out, one of my favorite units in the game. I love those. Oh, we lost an army, I think. Nope, it's over here, killing another mother. And Suds is doing a great job replacing these mothers. In fact, it doesn't seem like he even cares about losing them, which, why should he? He's got a Purger coming. It's going to take forever if he doesn't commit some others to it, but it's coming. And he's just got a lot of mothers out there soaking up resources, waiting to spawn off. So right now, the armies are roughly even-sized. The Goo's army is slightly larger, and the human's army is spread out. He's got this defensive force here, and this aggressive force out hunting mamas. And oh, some bad pathing kills half of that revolver force, and they don't even stop. Suds knows what's going on. He's, oh gosh, he says. And he's confused when Raiden just marches on by. And Raiden says, oh crap. He sees this giant Goo army, and I think all these gladiators are just going to be cleaned up. In fact, he's not even going to worry about preserving them. Let's see what's back at the base. We've got some howitzers, more gladius, that monitor that's doing an awful job of being a scout. This little army of revolvers has paid for itself many times over. But things are not looking up for Raiden right now. He really needs to commit to pull out of this. His opponent's got... Whoa! If you look at that population disparity, 175 to 68. You never want to see that. Yeah, that is not great. We've got 2 armies for our Goo player. This one to be built up over time. And then we've got that Purger. Dire straits for our human player right now. Got a lot of tech on the field. We should take a second to mention that while we jockey for position and then watch people build up. So we've got the power generator, which makes all of these, not those, the anti-heavy sentinels. Even if the conduit they're attached to is destroyed, they lose connection with the core, they're still going to be powered, which is not a bad upgrade, but I think he might be committing a little too heavily to turrets. You have some air pads coming down, so he's going to go air, which is great. I think that'd be take him a long. If he commits to air, it'll take him a long way back to getting back in this game. And we've got all this production back here that's never been harassed. Quite a large force of Goo. In fact, we've almost got 3 separate armies. And that monitor's unfortunately been sighted because small Proteans can see stealth. So Suds is being really cautious right now, overly so. He's got his opponent hemmed into his plateau. He knows that his opponent is hurting. He's got 3 armies. He knows he doesn't know what his opponent's capabilities are, but he can very easily find out. So I think both players are making some missteps here, although I think, unfortunately, Raiden's is the graver one because he's just got no production. He's mining himself out here, and good lord, look at how many resources he has stockpiled. Little abortive skirmish here. These howitzers might save it. Artillery are incredibly potent in this game, and an army has to take care lest it run afoul of any of the artillery. Specifically, I think humans and Goo have the 2 better artilleries. Beta's is a little lackluster in comparison. But we've got ourselves a little standoff here. Okay, so finally a second large factory. Hopefully he produces more small factories. In fact, he's not even getting any units out of these. Unfortunately, got some daggers to, Suds here is preferring this play where he hides in the brush, which is, it's a good strategy. And to combat that, we've got the daggers, which can pop in and attack a unit and then preserve sight of that unit over time. Okay, got another little standoff here. Let's see what happens with these howitzers and daggers. And in fact, let's go to Raiden's. See, these daggers, they're going to die, are paying for themselves, and that they're going to allow this large howitzer force to continue attacking the Goo army even in the brush. Now he needs to pull back. Very good, very good. Okay, so we've got a detector sentinel. Very nice for those stealth units. It would behoove Raiden to build another detector sentinel down here. And for the love of God, some factories, because this is not what you want to have. You want to have... he should at least probably have 1 factory per refinery, to be honest. Okay, we've got another large factory coming out. Some Gladius production that's been set to continue. So we've got Gladius coming out. More daggers, some more air units, the scimitar bombers. But Raiden is really been put into passive mode. Fortunately, we've got some stealth detection. Oh, these daggers, maybe? Yes, the daggers are stopping that abortive assault by these cloaked Radiants. This is an interesting strategy, but Radiants have very low DPS and no penetration. So it's certainly not a Dark Templar rush. And kind of tipping his hand here with the stealth means these dwellers are going to be hard-pressed to do anything. I like the dweller, but getting your opponent to start building anti-stealth units is not the way to be effective with the dweller. So when those Radiants go down, not really paying for themselves, I don't think, but the Proto-Purger is a little more than half done, and really at this point, if Suds wanted to go in there with an army, he'd probably mop up, especially if he used some of these mothers, but I guess we'll have to see what happens. Oh, we have some bombers coming out, taking out these high health mothers. I'd honestly like to say that from both players I would have expected a better economic game. Let's go to Suds real quick. Suds has a lot of potential units here. He's got, 5 or 6 mothers that can produce a large Protean and a small Protean. Just a lot of hit points sitting there with nothing being utilized. He's not attacking with them. He's not moving them. He's not producing units, and he's going to lose another one. So I really would like to see Suds be a little more aggressive with all these mothers. Looks like he's taking a large army of small Proteans, and he's going to feed them to the Purger to speed it up. Meanwhile, on Raiden's side, let's go to this tab, we have an Alpha in production. Armies are actually similar size now, 161 to 181 supply. So Raiden's brought it back, but once they start trading armies, I'm concerned about his ability to continue producing units. Let's go to the resources tab real quick. You can see that we're very nearly twice the resources for our Goo player for Suds. Okay, so Raiden's starting to push out. He's feeling a little more confident. He wants to take some territory, and he's going to take the top of the map. Because God knows he really needs to stop mining off these exhausted wells, these exhausted extractors. This catalyst river is done. It needs to recharge, which it will over time. But I mean, Suds is just sitting back, waiting, biding his time, wanting that purger to come out so he can make something happen with it. Raiden, on the other hand, is doing a very good job of securing this plateau. Let's go to all players' view. So he's forcing his opponent back. I think Suds, even with his economic advantage, doesn't want to squander it. A good, decisive strike right now against these mothers would not be good for Raiden. So we're pulling those mothers back. In fact, he may feed them to the Purger, although we've got a massive army. 12 small Proteans right here, and they're probably all going to go right into that Purger. We're not all. And the Purger is complete. One of the least visually impressive of the epic units, the Purger, is nonetheless impressive in its own right. It's actually, I think, my favorite. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun watching it do its thing. The Alpha, meanwhile, still has about 2 minutes to completion. Both players actually at a very similar overall population size, although a lot of that for Raiden is tied up in these Sentinels. So right now, the Goo player has the bigger force. In fact, he's got two big armies. He's moving all of his mothers up to this Purger to take advantage of its innate attribute, which is to heal formless Goo near it, which for mothers means it's giving them hit points. So all of a sudden, he doesn't need to use these catalyst events anymore, which he's mined out on his own as well. So I never really considered this before. You know, the Purger can take the Mother Goo and make a player entirely not reliant on catalyst. That's kind of shocking, actually. You can much more freely move those Mother Goos around, and this is a scary force. You know, it's not a big army in terms of attack capability. You know, this army has a much higher range damage potential. Well, I guess if you don't count the Purger. Purger has some pretty high range damage potential. But those mothers, man, you get a couple units caught in the corner of one of those, and that'll eat an army. That's scary. That's terrifying, in fact. And Raiden has seen the Purger and is probably crapping his pants a little bit, clicking on that Alpha, wishing it would come out sooner. So engagement location is going to be really important in dealing with this army. It almost might be better to fight it in an open space to avoid the Purger's devastating anti-structure attack, which we'll get to see here. I mean, look at the range on this and watch. See, look at that enormous aftermath effect. It's just eating everything. That's really not where units want to get caught. You want to approach this thing from multiple angles, from the top, from the sides. These mothers are going to make it very difficult. So, you know, this isn't just an army. This is as if his base were walking around fighting things. But human players do have some recourse. Oh, we've got another. Oh, he's just spending these Tempests, I think. Is he? Did he move those turrets, or did he lose them? I feel like I've missed it. I'm actually tempted to bookmark this. We're going to jump back here in a little bit because I want to come back to that. Okay, so Suds is just slowly marching across the map, cleaning up this production, and very wisely, Raiden has expanded down here, where there's It's a lot quieter for his poor little harvesters to bring those resources to the core. Okay, so this is taking a while, and there's not a lot going on. Oh, there was an attack, and I missed it because this army that was down here is now gone, and we've got a large force of Gladius coming out, I think, to try to clean up mothers. We'll see, though, because he knows that Purger is there. He knows he's got an army of Goo here to contend with. So we will have to see. And yeah, like I said, you prime your opponent to deal with stealth, get a couple of daggers out, and those villas aren't going to be more than speed bumps. But, oh lord, this army is definitely left to be contended with. And we've got the Alpha out. The Alpha is waiting. The Alpha is laying low these destructors. That was actually a pretty costly mistake there by Suds. Okay, we're going to have our face-off soon, I think. And unfortunately, a large portion of Raiden's forces out of position. They're hunting mothers. They want to clean up all these mothers in the back of this. And even Suds is hedging his bets. He's got another Proto-Purger in production right now. Which means the actual attack force is mostly going to consist of Mother Goos, which is, and of course we've got a couple of Proteans coming out. These mothers have tons of hit points in there. They're going to be building an attack force on the go, which I think is wise because any of these he commit could easily be killed, especially with the area damage of the Alpha. Okay, let's go to. Okay, so. Neither player has seen the other's army yet, although we do have this well-positioned monitor scouting the Goo force, so we know when this terrifying carpet of mothers is going to come in. Very nice with 3 bastions. Okay, so Suds has begun his attack. Oh, those poor scimitars. Those poor scimitars. That was just a waste. All of a sudden, Suds is quite content with himself. And here comes the epic battle we've all been waiting for, the terrifying titans facing off against one another. And poor Raiden's entire army out of position. Boy, I bet he wish he had those up there. That was the Alpha's secondary attack kicking in. He killed a ton of mothers right there. No, not actually that many. Unless a bunch more were just rebuilt. Wow, that's Alpha's melting those mothers. Yeah, now we've gone down to 5, and we're going to lose 2 more. So I think he's only got 3 mothers right now. Yes, only 3. Raiden's army's still doing nothing. Boy, he needs to do something with that army. Because the Alpha, I think, is going to go down against the might of the Purger. And the Purger is going to just have a heyday with this. This frantic Sentinel production is, I think, not going to serve poor Raiden very well. Not as well as doing anything with these tanks up here. The Alpha is definitely in panic mode, and the Purger knows that it's going to win this. Okay, so we've got a couple Gladius up here. That's not going to make too much of a difference, I don't think. We're going to have to make sure that something happens with these turrets, or the Purger may just take out everything by itself. Okay, so at the very least, Raiden is avenging himself slightly by taking out some mothers. Let's go to all players. We've only got 2 mothers left, and I think these Gladius are finally going to commit to coming up and taking out this Purger. Interestingly, our 2 remaining Mother Goos have full resources, so should either of them survive, Suds will be able to pretty quickly get his economy up and running again. So at least there's that for him. But there's also, of course, the Purger, which still has about a 5th of its hit points left, a little more than. And boy, you know, he could almost just walk that right into the middle of his opponent's base. And we've unpowered this extensive conduit line, doing nothing but unpowering the Detector Sentinel. At least all of his construction facilities still have power. If that was all knocked out, he would be in a very bad position. And wow, all but one of those Gladius are instantly killed. We've got this army coming around to help take out the last fifth of this Purger's hit points. Yep, got another mother sneaking down here, I think. Either to feed the Purger or to use up the last of this catalyst, which is slowly rebuilding itself. At the very least, you got to give it to Raiden. He's completely taken over this plateau, and is getting a lot of income. At the very least, is plus 55 per second. But oh god, all but three of those Gladius go down instantly. It's going to be close if that Purger gets off. Oh, no, take it out. If that Purger gets off one more hit, those last three tanks are going down. Whew, finally, with barely anything left in this base, Raiden fends off the Purger. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to him, another one is about half done building. So what Raiden really needs to do right now is get anything, revolvers, probably, out. Just tons of them. He's not producing any units right now. He's got a couple of Lancers. Lancers are a good choice against the high armor units that Goo's been putting out, but for the love of God, he needs more than just a couple Lancers. He needs an army. And he's got a lot of production, which is great, but he's not using it right now. And adding insult to injury, I think Suds is coming down here to expand into this plateau again. We'll see what happens, because I don't think Raiden is going to be able to respond particularly well. Though he's pulling his Gladius out, I think he wants to retain control of this plateau at all possible, and he's working to that effect. Okay. Got some Goo aggression here, which is, I think, Suds. The hallmark of Suds in this map is being really aggressive with his mothers. It's been very interesting to watch. I just wish I had more insights to share with Raiden's play. Unfortunately, he is not doing much right now, and he's going to cap out his resources again, which actually is a really bad thing, because you've still got resources coming in, they just can't go anywhere, so they're wasted. You've got Gladius coming out again, but he is just giving Suds free reign to rebuild. You know, we can have a bunch of others coming out any second now. And no units, but Raiden's not in a really great position to attack with units, so. Oh boy. So we're kind of at a stalemate right now. Both players are on the back foot after that big battle, although I think Suds is positioned to be in the better place. Let's check in with these last three Gladius. I think we've got two more coming down to join the fray. Gonna have a little bit of tree dancing here. Those Gladius better be careful, because there are surprise mothers hiding and waiting to be nasty. Okay. Raiden's trying to do a pincher movement here. He's got a monitor. And oh, he's not going to react in time. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, so very good use of that mother. Although the other one goes down, this one's still fairly vulnerable. Raiden has a decent small tank force out, but boy, he better have a lot when that Purger comes out. He's actually caught up admirably in economy, so good on you, Raiden, but please build some more units. You're going to need them shortly. Lost the rest of those tanks to the mother and these two Striders here, and that may spell bad news for this all this economy. Although he's banking 1,500 resources, so he's not in immediate need of of production. Of course, the more resources you're getting, the more you're able to continue your unit production, which unfortunately Raiden seems loath to do. Alright, just waiting for units to cross the map. I think he's going to wait for some reinforcements before attacking this mother. He doesn't really need to, I don't think. Those Striders are in a bad way. We've got the same tactic as before. This kind of in-pouring of small proteins to finish off the Proto-Purger. And, oh boy. Okay, we've got another Alpha in production, which is, I think, going to be much needed because there's just no... He's got 2 large factories sitting idle, and he's got enough production to maintain both of them. He should really have a much larger... Okay, we've got some air units coming out. We've got some scimitars coming out from the one, but the other large factory is still sitting idle. So chop chop Raiden, you need an army to win this game. Last I heard. Okay, so we've cleaned up the mamas down here, doing the same thing as before. Almost worked last time. Why the heck not? I think is what Suds is saying. Even if he doesn't win, he's going to go out in a goopy protean blaze of malformed glory, or some such nonsense. Okay, so we have this terrifying blob of death doing a slow march across the map, and some small proteans there that are just going to, I think, okay, thought he'd forgotten them. There we go. Got our invisible radiance yet again. But of course there's no self-detection at this point, so they may pay for themselves. Got a small force of destructors, and let's check our upgrades, and they do have the contagious goo upgrade, which makes their attacks bounce. So if it comes to a fight, we'll have to see what that means for these Gladius. We also have catalytic barrage, which I don't think is going to come into play because there are no crescents. Aerial defense, which means Radiants can target aircraft, I think is a very good choice in this case because we've got these stealth Radiants here in this army. Of course, veiled surveillance for the stealth, and progenitor conversion, which means that larger units like bastions and large proteins will leave a small protein when they die. As far as we had a little combat up here and lost about half of those Gladius to the Destructors. So not a bad trade, but I think this is going to be more than overwhelming for Raiden. And these 2 mothers, I think, playing it a little safe, are going to go clean up this economic operation for his opponent, and on the back of this rather terrifying assault. Terrifying, I think, only in the context of this particular battle, because this actually, a large, well-prepared force would have absolutely no problem eating this. So Raiden has a lot of Gladius sitting over here doing nothing while this all happens. We've got a pretty decent-sized army of turrets, but they're all very tightly packed. They melt, of course. So it looks like Raiden is going to not attack. That's one approach, is not attacking when your opponent is eating your base with giant death goo artillery. The other approach would be to attack and try to stop your base from being eaten by giant protean goo artillery. Looks like Raiden has chosen, in fact, to not attack and just watch his base melt. It's not the approach I would personally recommend, by the way. Yeah, just got some Gladius sitting there, camping out under the stars in the forest, telling each other stories, I guess. Oh my god, that poor base. Those poor, beautiful human structures. All of his production is gone, save these 2 small factories, which are still valiantly pumping out a couple Gladius at a time, and that Alpha, I don't think, is going to be joining us with only 17 seconds to go. The building is unpowered. There's no attempt to produce a new conduit. Even if there was, Suds is right there in the face, in the core of his opponent. And I really think Raiden is just throwing in the towel because he doesn't seem to care that his base is dying. Maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he's pulled a singleton and said, you know what, I'm going to join the Goo. Consume me, and I shall become like unto you. Something like that. Because he's certainly, you guys deserve a break, he says to his Gladius. I can handle this. So we're at the end of the game here. I think it's obvious who's won. Ultimately, neither player, I think, did a very good job of managing their economies. I think, obviously, Raiden was the weaker in that regard. He just didn't build enough production. He could have kept expanding the number of refineries he had. And had a much stronger economic presence. He neglected to build up an army when he could have. A lot of idle production facilities, unfortunately. Very, very interesting tactics, I think, by Suds here. With that kind of goo carpet that he kept making. Very creative use, I think, of the Purger. And interesting game. You got to see some big fights. You got to see some interesting skirmishes and some decent hunting by Raiden. But I think fairly low on the economic scale, unfortunately. Really could have been a lot more progress by both players. I think when you look at the top 10 players, this match, which was about 40 minutes, could have been handled in half as long by players with better economy management. All in all, though, fun game. Always nice to see those epic units in action, I think. All right, well, thank you for tuning in. This has been Suds versus Raiden, Human versus Goo, in Grey Goo. I will catch you next time, and hopefully I will see you on the battlefield.